Okay, thank you for rolling. Hi everybody, welcome back to our weekly live stream. My name is Alicia, and in this week's live lesson, we are going to talk about a modal verb in the past. This week, I'm going to focus on how to use could have and the negative form couldn't have. We're going to practice using this to make statements and to make questions. I'm also going to talk about some pronunciation points and also a couple of common questions people have with this grammar. So I hope that everyone can find something new in today's lesson. So as you join, please make sure to send a message in the chat so that we can say hello to you. Also, please make sure to like and share the video so that other people can find today's lesson. While we wait, as always, a couple of quick announcements. I will take away the lesson title. There is this this banner at the bottom of the screen about free PDF lessons. You can get a bunch of free vocabulary sheets to download. These are a few examples. I was just looking at this one, this Talking Online one. I thought this was really helpful for right now. These are cheat sheets, so basically a quick reference or a quick guide to a conversation topic. This one is about talking online, so vocabulary words and expressions you can use. In this case, common English internet vocabulary and common phrases to use. So this is the one I was just looking at. I thought this one was a nice one for these days. So you can check this out and many, many more. I'll show you some more later. There are a lot. You can find this from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you are watching on Facebook. That's announcement number one. Announcement number two is, as always, if you have questions about anything related to English, if you have grammar questions, if you want to know the difference between some similar vocabulary words, if you have culture-related questions, whatever, you can send them to me here. Please send them to me for our English Q&A series called Ask Alicia. This is a screenshot from the series, so I will read your question and maybe choose to answer it. So you can find these videos on the English Class 101 YouTube channel. You can just search for Ask Alicia there, and you'll find it. Should be exciting. All right, so that is it for today's announcements. I will come and say hello in the chat real quick. YouTube, I see everybody there. Facebook, I'm coming to look for you too. Great, it looks like everybody's there. YouTube, I'll say hi to you first. Elvin, New, Kanwaljit, hello. Krish, Wilbur, hi. Cool. Vishnu, hi. Wahab, hi. Thanks very much for coming. And on Facebook, I see lots of you on Facebook. Hi, hey, Masia. Ismail, hi. Sophia, hi. Miguel, hello. Stanley, Rashid, hi. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. As I said, this week we are going to talk about how to use a modal verb in the past. I'm going to cover could have and couldn't have this week. So, everybody is here. Let's look now at today's lesson flow. So again, if you have not seen our live lessons recently, I am broadcasting from home. I'm using smaller whiteboards these days. Let's take a look at our lesson flow. If I can push the button correctly. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at our lesson flow. First, I'm going to talk about could and could not have to make statements. This is part one. Next, I'm going to talk about how to make questions and kind of when we use these. And last, I'm going to do an FAQ. FAQ means frequently asked questions. So I'm going to cover some common questions people have about this grammar. Okay, so let's get into the first part of today's lesson then, please. I'm going to begin with this part. Once I find my marker, I lost my marker. Okay, let's talk first then about how to use this grammar to make statements. So first, let's quickly review how we make this grammar. What do we do? When we use could in the past for this lesson, this is the basic way we form the grammar. Could plus have plus the past participle form of a verb. So our subject will be over here somewhere. So I could have, he could have, she could have, and so on. To make it negative, we use not before have right here. So What does this grammar do? Why should we use this grammar? We use could have and could not have to express past possibility. Past possibility. So that means we want to talk about something that happened or that did not happen in the past. We just want to express it was possible or impossible. So to imagine this, imagine a timeline. So here's the past, here's now, our lesson, and then into the future. So when we make a positive could have past participle verb statement, it refers to something in the past that was possible. That was possible. But a key with this grammar point is we just want to talk about it. So that means this thing, it didn't happen. It didn't happen, but we just want to imagine that it was possible. Okay. On the other hand, when we make a negative, could not have something, it refers to something that was not possible in the past. So again, the opposite, this thing did happen, but we want to imagine a situation that is different from the past. So a lot of people ask me, like, can I just change could and would? Can I use them in the same way? The answer is no. They communicate very, very different ideas. I made a modal verbs in the past lesson about would, so please check that out if you have questions about how to use would. I will put a link to it after the stream in the YouTube description for this video, so please check that out if you want to understand the differences. So let's practice some positive and some negative statements, and if you have one, please send it in the chat. I will try to check your answers live and give you some feedback. So let's take a look at this sentence. If I had studied, I could have passed the test. If I had studied, I could have passed the test. Here we see a very common grammar pattern with this could have pattern, with this could have structure. It's very common to see these kinds of structures with an if statement. So if something, 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 usually if plus this past perfect, because we're talking about a past situation, yeah, or a past imaginary situation. So it's very common to see an if I had something, something, I could have something, something. So this is a very common structure. You can practice this one. So what is happening in this sentence? First, here's our could have, and past is the past participle form of the verb. I could have passed the test if I had studied. So what does this mean? It means I did not study first. I did not study, but I want to imagine if I had studied, I could have passed the test. That means in the past, there was a past possibility of passing the test, but I did not pass the test. Why? Probably because I didn't study. So again, we want to just imagine past possibility. Okay, let's look at a negative sentence, and then I'll come to the chat to try to check some of your examples, okay? So, a negative sentence. We could not have achieved our goals without our great team. Once more, we could not have achieved our goals without our great team. So this is a negative. Could not have achieved is the past participle form of achieve. We could not have achieved our goals. Then, what is happening here? So we are expressing a negative, yeah? So that means achieved our goals. This is the action, the activity, kind of. We want to express that action in the past, there was no possibility for it, but we had a great team. So this without means if it's like saying if we had not had a great team, if we had not had our great team, we would not, or we could not have achieved our goals. So this without is like a short way, a very short, quick way of saying had not had, or if we had not had. Very convenient, this word. So here is how we use it for a negative. So this is a compliment to our team, yeah? Okay, great. I will come for your example sentences now. Try to make an example sentence too. Silva says, if I had studied with Alicia before, I could have had a better English level. All right, pretty good. To make the last part, I could have had maybe a better English level. We might say I could have maybe achieved a higher English level. I could have slept, but instead I studied English. Good. Okay, good. Oh, Jantini says, if I had a good education, I could have had a beautiful life. So make sure when your verb is have, and then the next verb is have as well, could have had. I could have had. Okay, on Facebook, Beraz says, if I hadn't gone to the hospital, oh, I wouldn't. Now that's a wouldn't example sentence. Could. We're practicing could today. I wouldn't have had chronic pain. It's correct, though. Nice sentence. Let's see. Jose says, we could not have assessed the facility without the audit checklist. Nice. Perfect. And great vocabulary in that. Okay. What happened to your board? I'm teaching from my house. So, okay. Deepak on YouTube says, if I had enough money, maybe if I had, because again, we are talking about the past, yeah? If I had had enough money, I could have purchased a Netflix subscription for a year. Great. Okay, nice examples, everybody. Let's look at two more longer examples. I want to show some kind of natural long examples that use this grammar, and then we'll go to part two. So, another positive sentence. You could have come hiking with us if you had arrived in town earlier. You could have come hiking with us if you had arrived in town earlier. So, what's happening here? You could have come. This is our could have structure. The activity was hiking. You could have come hiking with us. Here's our if again. So, a very common pattern, if, with this. If you had arrived in town earlier. This point right here, earlier, is is where I see a very common mistake in learners. Many learners say, if you had arrived in town early. The reason this must be earlier, is because we are expressing earlier than the time you actually arrived. Earlier than the time you actually arrived. So if I arrived in town at 2:00 p.m., but in order to go hiking, I had to arrive at 12 o'clock, that's earlier than the time I actually arrived. So we have to use the comparative form here. If you could have come hiking with us if you had arrived in town earlier. So this sentence just makes the if part last in the sentence. You can switch it. So if can come at the beginning. Okay, one more negative example, then we will go to part two. Our manager was in meetings all morning, so she couldn't have had time to review the documents we sent. Again, our manager was in meetings all morning, so she couldn't have had time to review the documents we sent. So what is happening in this sentence? There's no if, right? What's going on? So we're talking about this past condition where our manager was in meetings. So in meetings means she was busy. She was attending meetings all morning. So she couldn't have had. That means it was impossible. She had time to review the documents we sent. She couldn't have had time to review the documents we sent. And again, here I've used have, and the next verb is also have, but I have to use the past participle form of the verb. So have had. She couldn't have had time to review the documents we sent. Okay, what else? What are your example sentences? I'm looking for your notifications. Maboba Sadat says, if I had learned a new language, I could have spoken with new people. Great, nice example sentence, nice example sentence. Okay, I think you guys have got it. I think everybody's doing great with this grammar. Nicely done. Let's take a quick break and then we'll continue to part two. You can send your examples while I do our break real quick. If you missed it earlier, in the link below the video, if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video, if you are watching on Facebook, is a link. There is a link to where you can download free vocabulary PDFs. For example, this one is at the supermarket. This one says singing, I know, but this is about actually music. The topic here is music. So key like music vocabulary words and phrases, like conversational phrases for music. So these PDFs are to help you improve like key points of conversation, key topics of conversation. So these are just a couple. I showed you this one earlier. There's a bunch. You can choose a bunch. Leisure activities. Ooh. So check these out. You can get them from the link below the video or above the video at EnglishClass101.com and work on your grammar. Should be good. Okay, we will continue on now. So if you're just joining, today's lesson is about a modal verb, could. We're practicing using could have and couldn't have in this week's lesson. So if you have not already, please make sure to like and share the video so that other people can find today's lesson. Alrighty, so let's move on to part two. I'm going to show you again today's lesson boards. You can take a picture if you like. So here we go. Could and could not have statements. This was part one for today. Now I'm going to talk about part two. Part two is going to cover questions. So I'm going to talk about yes, no, and information questions. Let's go. All right, some of you are asking me about the link for those PDFs I showed. If you're watching on YouTube, check the description, not the chat box. Check the description. Alrighty, let's go to part two. Questions. How to make questions with could. It's kind of tricky, I think. So let's practice. Okay, so could and could not have questions. How do we make questions with this grammar? I have one pattern listed here, but actually there are two question structures inside it. So we begin this question pattern with WHQ. WHQ, that means a WH question. Who, what, when, where, why, how also. So WHQ, could plus subject plus have and past participle verb. We can also use a negative here, couldn't, subject, have past participle verb. But an important note, when we use the negative here, this negative question pattern is usually used to make confirmation questions. What does that mean, a confirmation question? That means when you want to ask someone, is this right? Is that right? We use this negative couldn't pattern. That's usually what we use it. We typically don't use this WH question plus the negative form. We usually use this negative form to check something. Okay, let's continue then. I'm going to introduce a bunch of different examples of questions, yes or no questions, and information questions. The first one, this is one I included because you can use this question to get feedback. Especially if you make a mistake. You can use this at work. You can use it at school as well. The question is, what could I have done better? What could I have done better? So this question, there's a lot of information in this question. It's like saying, I understand my performance was a little low, or my performance was very low, maybe, at work or at school. So you ask your coworker or your boss or your teammate, what could I have done better? So that means in the past, what choice or what different action should I have taken? So what could I have done better than I did, in other words? So this is an example of a positive information question. Okay, another one. This is another very common one, and this is a confirmation question you can use in many different situations. Here, I chose this example. You're late. You're late. Couldn't you have texted? Couldn't you have texted? So to text means to pick up your phone and send a text message to say, I'm late. I'm late. I'm going to be late. So you're late. Couldn't you have texted? This means, wasn't it possible for you to text me? In other words, but this is a very short and easy way to say it. Couldn't you have texted? Again, you cannot change could for would in this example. So you cannot use would here. You're late. Couldn't you have texted? You can use that. And you can use a different verb too. You're late. Couldn't you have called? Something like that. So this is a very common negative question. Here's another one that you can use if you are maybe working in a team. So maybe like doing research or I don't know, looking at data analysis or something. So this is, where could we have made a mistake? Where could we have made a mistake? So again, past. And we're asking, it's kind of like, again, we're looking for feedback, but in a group. Like, did we do something wrong? If so, where? Is it possible it was here or here? So again, this is like a group kind of feedback or a group discussion question. Where could we have made a mistake? I don't know. Okay. Another one. This is a good pattern for arguments. For arguments. Let's see. So, how could I have known you got a new phone number? You didn't tell me. How could I have known you got a new phone number? So that means there was no possibility for me to know you got a new phone number. How could I have known? How was it possible for me to know? You didn't tell me. So you can change this part right here. So how could I have known, blah, blah, blah. How could I have known you moved to a new apartment? Or how could I have known you canceled the reservation? So some kind of like key update. You can put a key update here. How could I have known you got a new phone number? So this expresses kind of a frustrated feeling. Like, I'm angry, I didn't know some information, but maybe the other person isn't very logical. Like, they're mad, you didn't call, but you didn't know they had a new phone number. So this is a good one for arguments. How could I have known that? Okay, one more question pattern. This one. Who could have taken my coffee? I thought I was the only person in the office today. Who could have taken my coffee? So this is a good one to use when you are thinking by yourself. You're thinking by yourself. You're like, what? What happened? Who could have taken in this case? So you can change this verb, of course, to match what you're wondering about. Like, who could have called me just now? I don't know that phone number. So you can change this verb, of course, for when you're wondering about something. Who could have done that action? In this case, who could have taken my coffee? I thought I was the only person in the office. So this is when your coffee just disappears strangely. I don't know, maybe it's happened to you. Okay, so this is how we use could and could not have to make questions. Okay, let's see. I'm looking for your examples now. Rascal says, how could I have known that you were in the USA? Very nice. Okay. Bhavna, who could have eaten my pizza? Good. Who could have eaten? Who could have eaten my pizza. So make sure this eaten is the past participle verb form here. Past participle verb form. What could I have done to make up for my mistake? Very nice, very nice. Other examples. Who could have stolen my keys? Very nice. Okay, good. Good examples, everybody. On Facebook, I'm looking for your examples. Let's see. Raquel says, can we say could plus present perfect? In this grammar, no, we cannot say that. Like could has, like he could has something or other. No, we cannot use present perfect after this. We need to use have. So separate grammar points there. Okay. Others, Raquel says, what could have happened with my cell phone? Very nice. Okay, fantastic. Nice job with questions, everybody. Great. So I hope you found a useful pattern here. This one, again, good for feedback. This one, good for when you're frustrated with someone's poor communication skills. Oh, other examples are coming in now. Fantastic. Who could have stolen my book? Perfect. Okay. How could I have known she was your girlfriend? Oh, Douglas. Very nice example. Kind of scandalous. On Facebook, Shinar says, who could have taken my place? Very nice example. Asiaski says, how could I have known you bought a house? Be careful. You bought a house. Brought means bring. To bring a house, maybe not bring. So how could I have known you bought a house? Okay. Roger, how could I have known about modal verbs here? By studying, maybe. Yeah, good example sentence. Who could have picked up my ball pen? Who could have picked up my ball pen? Stacy. Zaid says, who could have taken my car? Oh, very nice example sentence. Very nice example. Okay. New on YouTube says, who could have sent messages to me? I don't give my phone number to anyone. Good. Very, very close. So maybe a good practice point for many of you, make sure you use the past participle verb form when you're making your questions here. Okay. Let's continue to the last part of today's lesson. If you're just joining, today's lesson is about modal verbs in the past. We are focusing, I'll show you the lesson title if you're just joining. If you're just joining, today's lesson focus is modal verbs in the past. I'm talking about how to use could have and couldn't have. So we're going to go to the final part of today's lesson. Real quick, I will show you again a couple of vocabulary resources to help you in your studies. You can pick one or a bunch. I showed a few of these earlier. This one, these are all for free at EnglishClass101.com, but you can download these PDFs to practice a specific vocabulary or a specific conversation. This is travel, I know, but there's a list of vocabulary, a list of phrases on the back. Basic phrases. So these are really, this one is really, really good for beginners, I think. There's another good one for sports and exercise. I know this is a topic that's important to me at this point in time. So you can take a look at any of these. You can download all of them. There's a ton, there's a bunch. You can download for free. Business, as always, important for many of you, I know. So check it out from the link below the video, the description if you are watching on YouTube, and check above the chat or above this video if you are watching this on Facebook to get these. All right, so let's go to the last part of today's lesson. Also, if you are just joining, please make sure to like and share the video so other people can find today's lesson. All right, I'll show you today's lesson flow once more. You can take a picture if you like. Means frequently asked questions. Frequently asked questions. All right. So let's go to that. Let me get this out of here. All right. FAQ. What are your frequently asked questions? So frequently asked questions, things I notice you ask me about is frequently asked questions here. First, I want to talk about this use of could have and could not have. I think many people get kind of confused about how to use this with been. Could have been or could not have been. When we use this grammar pattern with the verb be, we can make a statement about a condition Or we can also use it to create a passive sentence. So I want to share a couple of examples because the grammar is the same as the grammar we talked about before. We make the sentence in the same way, but we follow the verb with some different information. So we're following the verb with a condition or a status or like a job. So, for example, if I had studied harder when I was a kid, I could have been a doctor. If I had studied harder when I was a kid, I could have been a doctor. So here, could have been a doctor. This is like a condition. We can think of it like condition or a status. My status could have been doctor. So this means I am not a doctor, but I want to imagine the possibility in the past. So we can do that by using been here. Let's look at a negative example of this. This is a conversation. So person A says, "Was that Risa?" Risa, was that Risa? Person B says, "No, that couldn't have been Risa. She's working from home today." No, that couldn't have been Risa. She's working from home today. So this expresses that it's not possible that that person is Risa. So when you use a person's name here, of course, it's kind of strange to imagine it's like a condition or something like that. So it's okay to use a person's name here when you're talking, when you're asking like, is that so and so or is that so and so? So couldn't have been Risa. Okay, finally, one more example, another coffee stealing example. My coffee's gone, says person A. My coffee's gone. And B, could it have been taken by someone else? Could it have been taken by someone else? So this is a passive structure, yeah? Could it have been taken by someone else? Or by someone is also okay. So we can use this been taken to create those passive structures as well. This will create, yes, an even more, what should I say, an even deeper, more complex sentence. Okay. So this is how we use been. I wanted to cover that. The final point for today is an easy one, one that everyone can consider. Pronunciation point. So could have and couldn't have. In this lesson, I have been using very clear pronunciation to focus on today's grammar point. However, in everyday speech, we don't say could have and could not have or couldn't have. In everyday speech, could have sounds like coulda, coulda. And couldn't have sounds like couldna, couldna. Note, this is for spoken English only. It's not used in writing. We do not use coulda and couldna in writing. This is for your spoken English only. So I'll read a couple examples. So I could have been a doctor. At native speed, sounds like I could have been a doctor. I could have been a doctor. Or that couldn't have been Risa sounds like, no, that couldn't have been Risa. No, that couldn't have been Risa. So couldn't have been in this case. Or could have been sounds like could have been, could have been. So the key difference is this couldna. This comes in with the negative form. Couldn't have sounds like couldna, couldna. So you might think, oh my gosh, coulda and couldna sound so different. But there's a different rhythm there, coulda, couldna. So listen for this in your listening practice. That little sound creates the negative form in everyday speech. Okay, we'll finish there. Wow, that was great. That was a lot, but I think we got it. I'm looking now in the chat for your questions. Nice example sentences today, everybody. Great work with that. Some questions are coming in. How do I spell architecture? If you have a spelling question, I would suggest using Google, but your spelling is good. Just remove one C there. Where can I get free PDF lessons? Check the link below the video if you are watching on YouTube. You are a YouTube person. If you're watching on Facebook, check the link above the video to get those. You need your name and email address. Nura says, so questions, statements like who could have, don't have subjects after could, right? Yes, that's correct, that's correct. So I introduced in the question part of today's lesson, I introduced this one, this question pattern. But yes, when you, where was your question? When you're asking like these kind of wondering style questions, who could have blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you don't have to, you don't need to put a subject right here. You're kind of wondering, who did this thing? But you don't always have to have that. That's correct. Okay, other questions? I don't see any. Some other examples are coming in. All right. That looks good to me. So I'll end there for this week. Thank you, as always, for joining me live. It was very fun. A lot of good fun. I'm going to show you the next lesson's details. I'll be back next week, as always. Next week, oh my gosh, August 12th. That reminds me, this week's lesson is our 3-year anniversary of live streams. Wow, time flies. Can you believe it? So next week, we'll be back August 12th, Wednesday, August 12th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 15 phrasal verbs for work and for school. Hooray, phrasal verbs. Everybody always asks me for help about phrasal verbs. So I'm going to cover 15 phrasal verbs that you can use at your job or that you can use at school. I hope that these are helpful for you right now. Ana Lucia, thank you so much for your support in the YouTube chat. That is awesome, super cool. So this will be next week. Please join me live or watch at your convenience. You can set a notification on our channel or on YouTube or on Facebook to make sure you can join us live. Also, some of you on Facebook were asking about a YouTube channel. Yes, we do have a YouTube channel where you can check all of our lessons. It is youtube.com. Just search for English Class 101 to find us. So I will say goodbye there. Please make sure to check out the free stuff that you can get from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you are watching on Facebook. This is all free stuff to practice conversational phrases and vocabulary. I will say goodbye. So thanks so much for liking and sharing this lesson. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you again soon. Bye.